I am going to diverge somewhat this evening from the main theme of our study, because this subject also is centrally connected with Mother's approach to life. We have here on my left a friend from the United States, Professor Thompson, a Fulbright scholar, who I learn is on a study tour of the question of aging in the light of Indian spirituality. I may not be very correct, but something of that in that context. I also learn that he has been in Benares for the last 4 months, interviewing sannyasins and others. And he has come here on the same mission. So I thought it would be good to acquaint him and for ourselves to remind ourselves of the Indian approach to aging. There was a report last year of another American professor who was doing a research work on aging, and it was said that he went to Hunza, one of the mountainous areas of Pakistan, where people normally live more than 100 years. He was there, he interviewed. I have not had the opportunity to study his thesis, but this shows the amount of interest that has been generated in the West, particularly in America, on the question of longevity, prolonging the lifespan and alive subjects. In India, however, the approach to aging is quite different. All along, it has never been a problem, because in the first place, we believe, almost all of us, that the present lifespan is not everything. We have many lives to live. We have had many before and are going to have many more in future. So there is not that over concern with the period or the duration of the present lifespan. Added to that background of series of births that each one has to go through, for what purpose is another matter. There is the attitude of traditional Indian spirituality, which is what Sri Aurobindo describes as the refusal of the ascetic. The body, physical existence, is looked upon with disdain by those who take to spiritual quest. In the Christian terminology, they speak of the spirit and the flesh. So this applies here in this context, that there are lines of discipline which go out of their way to punish the body, to starve the body, because the body is looked upon as an obstruction. And the life is looked upon as a necessary evil till you get out of it, with whatever merit you acquire for a better type of birth in the next incarnation. That is the general attitude, sir, of Indian spirituality down the line, particularly after the Buddhist interregnum, that matter, material things, physical body is an obstacle to spiritual salvation. So they do not care, but there are exceptions. In the foothills of the Himalayas, you will find there is still a living tradition, what is called the Natha tradition, where they prize the body. They want to prolong the lifespan, and they take a many-sided approach. In their discipline, the Nathas, there is first the physical discipline of the asanas, very complicated asanas, to train the body to stand strain, suffering, denial of all kinds. And there is intricate processes of pranayam which elongate the breath. Train the breath to be as slow as possible, so that you acquire a certain mastery over the operations of the life force, whose characteristic activity is the breath. And in addition, they have a science of using certain herbs, combination of certain metals like gold, even pearl powders, with deliberate certain combinations. It is found to help the body to prolong its span, and they do it with a spiritual purpose, to house the energy of God and let Him enjoy this life through the instruments, very close to the tantric tradition, where the world is looked upon as an arena for cosmic enjoyment of the Creator through the human channels. There also in the Tantras, there is an effort through the activizing of Kundalini, opening of the various centers in the body, to arrive at a certain optimum of life. But in all these cases, it is understood that you can only prolong the lifespan with whatever measures, but you can't acquire, and it is not worth acquiring, what is called conquest over death. The ideal of immortality was first blazoned by the Vedic mystics thousands of years ago. Those rishis who set the type for the Indian civilization, the Indian spirit, evolution of the Indian spirit. They did achieve certain things in a typal form, leaving it to the posterity to develop in things in a natural way. In India today, you will find that it is only Sri Aurobindo and the mother who have given the proper value to the physical dimension of life, who cherish the services that the physical body can render to the spiritual quest. In fact, they recognize the legitimate claim of the body for perfection along with the soul, the mind, the life energy, and other aspects of the human life. Only Sri Aurobindo looks upon this perfection of body as secondary, necessary, but it is not the main aim. The immortality in our approach is of consciousness and not of the body. It is consciousness that continues in however minuscule a form after death. And the aim of the higher spiritual quest is to keep this current of consciousness continuous across births and deaths. There should be no gap between my consciousness now and my consciousness in the next birth. Till that is done, one has not achieved immortality. When that is done, physical immortality is a consequence. It can be achieved, but it is a consequence. First, the victory, the achievement must be made on the inner level. After all, the physical body that we see and are conscious of is only the outermost sheath, supplying the sinews of life, energies. There are other dimensions in our body, in our being. The nearest to the physical being the subtle physical body, the subtle physical sheath, what the theosophists call the etheric body. And it is the health of this subtle body in us, the subtle sheath, that truly determines the duration and the health of the physical body. It is the psychological state of the individual which is coming to be recognized today more and more by medical science. Otherwise, till some 20, 30 years ago, physical diseases, physical maladies were believed to have only physical origins. Today, medical science admits that it has psychological origins. The recent researches into cancer, for instance, number of seminars have been held in England and America on the subject. They have found that cancer is mostly due to psychological imbalance. The cells of the cancer are weak cells. That is why they go astray. By asserting a positive will on them, it is possible to change their direction. Medical science has gone so far as to admit psychological origins of illnesses, psychological cures of illnesses. But that is not enough. Psychologically, you are what you are due to your spiritual balance. You may or may not be conscious of it. that spiritual origin has to be tapped, has to be cultivated. And the mother has developed quite a science of tapping at this consciousness, which has many levels, many grades of being, and utilizing it for strengthening the body, lengthening the life of the body. There is what she calls the nervous envelope around our physical body. There is a nervous envelope. If you have the occult eye to see, it is a somewhat greyish, like vapor around the body. And no disease can get into you unless it can bore through this envelope, a sheath. And you are as strong physically, as immune to diseases physically, as this subtle envelope, nervous envelope is. Moments of depression, moments of defeatism, moments of fatality, they bore holes into this nervous envelope, and the body gets weak. It cannot resist. It develops a certain receptivity to attacks of viruses and illnesses. It is a part of our yoga to approach the body from the level of the subtle physical envelope. And it is possible. Once this nervous body, nervous system is strengthened and kept immune from negative movements, it is possible to keep the body in constant, perpetual health and prevent it from premature aging. After all, aging is not always to be measured in physical science. Mother used to say that she had met old people of 20 and young ones of 90. That is the truth of the popular adage that you are as old as you feel. There is a lot of truth in that. Now, why have we got the physical body? The Indian tradition is organized around the existence of a soul, a spark of God. It takes on body, number of bodies, to get experience, and in due time to develop and manifest the consciousness of God on earth. And it is called spiritual evolution of consciousness, which is different from Darwinian formula of consciousness, which is only a development of the physical form. Sri Aurobindo's scheme of evolution of consciousness, spiritual consciousness, is central to this approach. And as long as the evolving soul, which is our inmost part, has a purpose, it has a goal, life continues. If once we give up for whatever reason, for whatever disappointments and frustrations, that's the end of the body, that's the end of life. Sri Aurobindo observed somewhere that the only failures of God are souls that do not aspire. When you give up aspiration, When you give up seeking, something is cut off. So, you must have a purpose in life. That is insisted upon by the Indian tradition. Purpose in life. One purpose, when it is achieved, when it is fulfilled, you have to take on a fresh purpose. Otherwise, once you achieve what you wanted to achieve, you suddenly lose the verve and the push. That is, you settle down, you stagnate. So Mother says, renew your purpose, add something more, and the body catches it up. So, to keep the purpose of life alive and to assure oneself of the health of the nervous envelope by taking care to preserve the psychological health and always organizing your life around positive values. And the most positive thing in life is faith in God. That's the one indestructible thing to which ultimately, with all detours, you come back. A nihilist, an atheist, he doesn't have any problem. He doesn't believe in a hereafter, and he has no problem. But he is jolly. He is comparatively happy because he has an equation with nature as it is. He doesn't question nature. He accepts the law of nature. He tunes himself to nature. There is a rhythm, and they are happy. It doesn't matter to them when they die, whether there is any hereafter. But for those who look ahead, there is a purpose. So one has to live, learn to live on the deeper levels of existence, more and more leading to the soul levels, in order to exert that pressure and give a direction to physical existence. So aging, in the Indian conception, can be prevented to a certain extent by physical means, like the use of herbs, gold, pearl, copper, that powder, the whole science of Ayurveda, which is called the science of life, has gone into great detail over this question. And Hatha Yoga, the discipline of the physical body, is precisely aimed at lengthening the lifespan, prolonging the duration of the body. But it is a science, and how many? Hardly 0.1% of our population practices it. How many can afford the Ayurvedic remedies for preventing aging? But for those who are serious about it, it is a question of consciousness. There is no remedy on the physical plane for prolonging the lifespan of the body beyond a certain limit. But if you can station yourself in a spiritual level, live in a consciousness of the soul, it is possible to live as long as the outer life is tuned to the call of the soul. if one is responsive to the demand of the soul, there is no reason why one should fall ill or one should die. It is an axiomatic truth for us that death takes place when the outer complex of the mind, life and body do not keep pace with the progress of the soul. The soul goes on progressing inward, progressing upward, progressing outward. But along with that growth, there should be a response, a responsive collaboration from the outer man or the outer being. When that snaps, it is a question of time before there is death. So, all illness, many accidents, many untoward happenings, studied from this angle, are results of the failure of the outer life to keep pace with the progress of the soul. This, in a sense, is the approach of today's spirituality in India, and I am glad to point out that more and more movements have taken up this approach of claiming the physical body as a participant in the quest for perfection. We don't call it salvation here. It is perfection of consciousness. Perfection of consciousness in God, in the divine. So the body also has a part. But this is an approach which is very peculiar to our place, and from the emphasis that is being given to the physical culture here, the developed positive attitude to life, that it is something to be perfected in the image of God. There is a certain distinction to be noted between the traditional Indian spirituality, which you see reflected in the lives of many sannyasins and ascetics in pilgrim centers, and these. The only offshoot of this new approach to physical body has found expression in the United States at a certain level by the efforts of Swami Yoganand, who has started the Self-Realization Fellowship. And during all our tours in the United States, we were in touch with them, and we found it's a very clean movement, believing in a destiny of the body. They have certain special exercises, yogic disciplines, what is called Kriya Yoga, which they will not reveal to others except to those who enroll themselves as disciples, who give an undertaking not to join any other group of spiritual seeking, a very narrow approach, I'm sorry. And I did find that they are very healthy group, a certain physical courage in them, and the Indian shadow of refusal is they don't care for death. They don't bother. The movement today is mostly organized in California. It was in the near Chicago area for quite some time, but now there have been splits, and I believe their head office now is in Los Angeles. But that Kriya Yoga movement has almost died in India, but it is still surviving in the United States, because In the United States, there are more people conscious of the possibilities of the body than in India. And whether in sports, games, in many activities, they have this aim to enter into altered states of consciousness through the physical movements. We have certain friends there who have done research, and it was very encouraging. But ultimately, what for? Why do you want to live long? That's the question. Mother asks, first set your goals, set your purpose, and then everything will follow. To live long, to live eternally, is not the object of the Indian mind. To arrive at unity with the divine consciousness, that's the highest goal. All else is a consequence, a result. This scale of values has to be kept in mind, and slowly the time spirit is compelling the Indian mind to change its approach to physical existence, the physical body, and the question of life duration. A more positive approach is being pushed through, and even in the number of mutts, monasteries, we find there is a slow awareness that a different approach is necessary, that matter also is God. I think that's what I have to say.